Frank, for years I've always kept my tomatoes in the refrigerator. I thought it would help them stay fresh longer. But the other day, you told me that was a mistake. And honestly, I still don't understand why.
Helen, that's a very common misunderstanding. Many people believe putting everything in the fridge is best, but in reality, some foods lose their flavor, change texture, or even spoil faster when stored cold.
I never imagined the fridge could actually make food go bad faster.
That's right. Take tomatoes, for example. Cold temperatures damage their cell structure, making them mushy and robbing them of their natural sweetness. And it's not just tomatoes. Many other foods react the same way.
So all this time, I've been ruining the taste of my food without even knowing it.
Today, we're going to explore 7 common foods you should keep out of the fridge and how to store them properly so they keep their flavor, texture, and nutritional value.
That sounds interesting. I think a lot of people will be just as surprised as I am. Frank, to be honest, I've always believed that keeping tomatoes in the fridge helps them stay fresh longer. I've done it since I was young. It's just been a habit.
Helen, you're not alone. Many people think the same. But in reality, tomatoes are one of the foods that hate the fridge the most.
That sounds strange. Why do tomatoes dislike the fridge?
Tomatoes have very delicate cell membranes. When stored below about 50 degrees, 10 degrees, like in a fridge, the cell walls break down. This causes the juices and compounds inside to leak out, making tomatoes mushy and less plump. Cold temperatures also slow down the enzymes that create flavor. That's why refrigerated tomatoes often lose their natural sweetness and aroma.
Oh, so that's why so many times my fridge tomatoes turn soft and slightly sour. I always thought it was just poor quality.
Not necessarily, Helen. Many perfectly good tomatoes lose their taste simply because they were stored the wrong way. At room temperature, their flavor continues to develop and their texture stays firm.
But what if I buy a lot and can't use them right away? I'm afraid they'll spoil faster outside.
The solution is to store them in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight. If they're not fully ripe, let them ripen naturally on the counter or in a basket. Once ripe, eat them within 2 to 3 days for the best taste.
I remember my mom used to keep tomatoes in a woven basket in the kitchen. They'd ripen to a deep red and fill the house with a wonderful aroma.
That's a traditional method that's actually very science-backed. Many of our grandparents' storage tips still hold true today.
What about cut tomatoes? I usually wrap them in plastic and put them in the fridge for convenience.
For cut tomatoes, you can store them in an airtight container in the fridge. But eat them within 24 hours to avoid losing flavor and moisture. Ideally, cut them right before eating or cooking.
I guess it's not that hard to change this habit. Just need to reorganize my storage a bit.
Exactly. And here's my reminder to all our listeners. If you have tomatoes in your fridge right now, take them out and let them ripen naturally on the counter. You'll be amazed at how much richer they taste.
I'll do that today. Who knows? Tonight's salad might be a lot more flavorful.
I'm sure it will be. Once you taste the difference, you won't want to put tomatoes in the fridge again.
Sounds great. So what's the next food I should rescue from the fridge, Frank?
It's something almost every kitchen has. But the colder you keep it, the quicker it goes bad.
Let me guess. Onions? Frank, I'm guessing the next food you're talking about is onions. I usually keep them in the fridge to prevent sprouting and make them last longer.
Helen, that's actually a pretty common habit. But in reality, storing onions in the fridge can make them spoil faster.
Really? I thought cold temperatures would preserve everything.
The problem is that fridges are humid. That moisture makes onions soften quickly, encourages mold growth, and can even trigger sprouting earlier. Plus, the dampness damages their dry outer skins, which normally protect the inside.
Oh, Now that you mention it, I do remember taking onions out of the fridge and finding them soft with a strange smell.
Exactly. Once onions go bad, not only does the flavor suffer, but the risk of bacteria and mold increases. The best way to store them is in a well-ventilated, dry, and dark place, like a mesh basket or a woven bin in the corner of your kitchen.
Can I store them in plastic bags?
Not a good idea. Plastic bags trap moisture, creating the perfect environment for mold. Instead, use paper bags or mesh bags that allow air circulation.
And if I buy a lot and want to store them for more than a month?
Choose dry, firm onions with thin skins, and don't store them with potatoes. Potatoes release ethylene gas and moisture, which make onions spoil faster.
So keeping onions and potatoes in the same basket like I've been doing is actually a mistake.
Many people make that mistake. The simplest fix is to keep them separate and use shelves or racks with multiple tiers for better organization.
What about cut onions? Where should I keep those?
Once cut, wrap them tightly in plastic wrap or store in an airtight container in the fridge. Use within 1-2 days because they'll lose moisture and develop a stronger smell.
Got it. Whole onions stay outside, cut onions go in the fridge.
Exactly. And here's my tip for all our listeners. Try keeping onions in a breathable basket in your kitchen corner. You'll notice they last longer and taste better when cooked.
I'll try that. And I'm guessing the next food is something almost everyone has at home?
That's right. It's a familiar ingredient in many dishes, but when stored in the fridge, its flavor changes dramatically.
Let me guess. Potatoes?
Exactly, Helen. Potatoes are the next victim of storage mistakes.
Frank, I've always thought keeping potatoes in the fridge would make them last longer and stop sprouting so fast. But from what you've been saying, I might be wrong again.
You're right, Helen. Potatoes don't like the cold. When stored in the fridge, the low temperature turns some of their starch into sugar faster than normal.
That doesn't sound too bad. A little extra sweetness might make them taste even better, right?
It might sound that way, but in reality, it's not good. The extra sugar changes the potato's natural flavor, giving it a strange sweetness. And when you fry or roast them at high heat, that sugar reacts with amino acids to form acrylamide, a compound that studies suggest can be harmful if consumed in large amounts.
Oh, I never even thought about that. So the fridge doesn't just affect taste, it can actually impact food safety.
Exactly. Plus, the cold, damp environment can make potatoes develop hard spots or dark patches inside.
So, what's the right way to store them?
Keep them in a cool, dry, and dark place, like a pantry or a kitchen cupboard away from sunlight. The ideal temperature is around 45-50 degrees Celsius.
I remember my grandmother used to wrap potatoes in newspaper and store them under the kitchen cabinet. Is that why they lasted so long and still tasted good?
Exactly. The paper absorbs excess moisture and blocks light, preventing the skin from turning green and producing solanine, a natural toxin that can taste bitter and cause digestive issues if eaten in large amounts.
What about peeled or cut potatoes?
If they're already peeled or cut, you can keep them in the fridge, but make sure to submerge them in water to prevent browning. Still, it's best to cook them within 24 hours for the best flavor.
That's simple enough. I'll move all my potatoes outside and keep them far away from my onions.
Perfect. And here's my reminder for everyone listening. Store potatoes in a cool, dry, and dark place, never in the fridge, to preserve both their flavor and their safety.
I'll remember that. So, what's next on your list, Frank?
This next one is something many people put in the fridge to prevent mold, but that habit can actually make it lose flavor faster.
You must be talking about bread, right?
Exactly, Helen. And it's a mistake I see far too many families make.
Frank, I'll admit it. In my house, bread almost always ends up in the fridge. I thought it would keep it from getting moldy and make it last longer.
I understand your thinking, Helen. It sounds logical, but in reality, it's not the best way to store bread.
Really? I thought cooler temperatures would keep bread fresher.
The problem is that refrigeration speeds up the starch crystallization process. As soon as bread cools after baking, the starch begins to recrystallize, making it firm and dry. Cold temperatures in the fridge accelerate this, so bread loses its softness in just a day or two.
Ah, so that's why bread from the fridge doesn't mold, but it tastes dry and crumbly.
Exactly, you preserve it longer, but at the cost of flavor and texture.
So what's the best way to keep bread fresh?
If you'll eat it within 2 to 3 days, keep it in a paper bag or an airtight container at room temperature, away from sunlight and heat. For longer storage, freezing is the way to go, not refrigeration.
Won't freezing make it dry?
Not if you wrap it tightly in plastic wrap or a freezer-safe zip bag before freezing. When you're ready to eat, just thaw at room temperature or lightly reheat to bring back the softness and aroma.
I never realized freezing was better than the fridge for bread.
That's right. The fridge is a danger zone for bread. It's not cold enough to stop mold for long, but just cold enough to make it stale quickly.
What about packaged sandwich bread?
Same rule applies. Keep it at room temperature if you'll eat it soon. If not, freeze it in smaller portions and thaw as needed.
Well, from now on, no more storing bread in the fridge for me.
Good choice. And here's my reminder for everyone listening. If you want bread to last without losing its taste, keep it at room temperature or freeze it. Never refrigerate it.
I'll try that next week when I buy fresh bread from the bakery.
Perfect. Now let's move on to another food that many people unknowingly reduce the quality of by storing it in the fridge.
You're talking about olive oil, right?
Exactly, Helen. And here's why olive oil doesn't belong in the refrigerator.
Frank, I'm guessing this one's olive oil. I'll be honest, I've always kept my olive oil in the fridge because I'm afraid it'll go bad if I leave it out.
That's a very common misconception, Helen. Olive oil actually doesn't need, and really shouldn't, be stored in the refrigerator, unless you live somewhere extremely hot.
So what happens if it is refrigerated?
Cold temperatures cause the fats in olive oil to solidify, making it cloudy and thick. This changes its delicate aroma and flavor, and it loses that natural smoothness.
Oh, I remember opening a bottle once and seeing it thick and cloudy with little white bits. I thought it had gone bad and threw it away.
That's actually just a normal physical reaction to the cold. If you bring it back to room temperature, it will clear up. But here's the problem. Repeating that chill-warm cycle over and over can reduce the oil's quality and flavor over time.
So what's the right way to store it?
Keep olive oil in a cool, dark place, away from direct sunlight and heat. Ideally, store it in a dark glass bottle with the lid tightly closed.
I usually keep my bottle right next to the stove for convenience. Is that okay?
Not really. Heat from the stove speeds up oxidation, which breaks down its antioxidants and flavor. Keep it in a cabinet or shelf a bit further away from the stove.
And once it's opened, how long does it last?
Properly stored, extra virgin olive oil tastes best within 6 months of opening. After that, the flavor may fade, but it's still safe to use as long as it hasn't developed an off smell.
That's a small tip, but I can see it saving me money and keeping my oil tasting great for longer.
Exactly. And here's my reminder for everyone. Don't refrigerate olive oil unless absolutely necessary. Keep it cool, dark, and sealed to protect its flavor.
I'll be moving my bottle out of the fridge as soon as I get home.
Perfect. Now, our next item is another food that people often put in the fridge. Yet doing so actually makes it harder to use.
Let me guess. Honey?
Exactly, Helen, and the reason is quite interesting.
Frank, I'm guessing the next one is honey. I usually keep my jar in the fridge, thinking it will last longer and stay fresh.
Actually, Helen, honey is one of the most stable foods in the world. It can be stored at room temperature for years, even decades, without spoiling.
Then why do so many people, myself included, put it in the fridge?
I think it's because people apply the colder is fresher rule to everything. But with honey, refrigeration causes one big problem: crystallization.
Crystallization. You mean those tiny sugar-like grains that form in the honey?
Exactly. Cold temperatures speed up the natural crystallization of honey's sugars, making it thick, gritty, and harder to pour. It doesn't harm the nutrition, but it does make it less convenient to use.
I used to think crystallized honey had gone bad. I even threw a jar away once.
Many people think that. In reality, if honey crystallizes, just place the jar in a bowl of warm water, no hotter than 104 Fahrenheit 40, and stir gently until it clears up.
So what's the best way to store honey?
Simply keep it at room temperature in a dry place, away from direct sunlight. Always keep the lid tightly closed to prevent it from absorbing moisture or odors.
That's so simple. All these years I've been making things harder than they need to be.
Sometimes less, really, is more. Keeping honey in its natural state is the best way to maintain its quality.
What about honey that's been mixed with water or lemon?
That's different. Once diluted, honey loses much of its antibacterial strength. In that case, it should be refrigerated and used within 1-2 days.
Got it. From now on, my honey jar is staying on the kitchen shelf, nowhere near the fridge.
Perfect. And here's a reminder for everyone. Don't refrigerate pure honey. Keep it at room temperature to protect its flavor and convenience.
Makes perfect sense. Now I'm curious. What's the last food on today's list?
It's a common fruit that most people rush to refrigerate, but doing so actually ruins its look and taste.
Let me guess. Bananas?
Exactly, Helen. And the reason might surprise you.
Frank, I'm guessing the last food is bananas. I almost always put the whole bunch in the fridge as soon as I get home.
That's actually one of the most common misconceptions, Helen. Bananas really don't like cold environments, especially if they're not fully ripe yet.
So, what actually happens when they're refrigerated?
Cold temperatures slow the natural ripening process and damage the cell structure in the peel. This causes the skin to turn brown or black quickly, while the inside may still be green, or turn mushy in spots.
Ah, yes, I've seen bananas turn black in the fridge overnight. I thought it meant they'd gone bad.
Not necessarily. The inside is usually still edible, but the taste and texture aren't as good as bananas that ripen naturally at room temperature.
So what's the best way to store them?
Keep bananas at room temperature, in a dry, well-ventilated spot. If you want to slow down ripening after they're ripe, separate each banana from the bunch and wrap the stems in plastic wrap to slow the release of ethylene gas.
I've heard that hanging bananas prevents bruising. Is that true?
Yes, hanging reduces pressure on the peel, helping prevent bruises and slow the ripening process.
What about bananas that are already overripe before I can finish them?
In that case, freeze them. They're perfect for smoothies, banana bread, or desserts. Freezing won't hurt the flavor. It actually makes for great dessert ingredients.
That's good to know. So clearly not all foods belong in the fridge.
Exactly. And here's a final tip for our listeners. If you want bananas to taste their best, keep them at room temperature until ripe. Only freeze them if you want to store them longer or use them for sweet treats.
Thanks, Frank. I've rescued quite a few foods from my fridge today thanks to you.
I'm glad to hear that. We've gone through 7 common foods that don't belong in the refrigerator.
I'm sure a lot of people listening will go check their fridge right after this.
And that's a good habit. Storing food correctly not only keeps the flavor and nutrients intact, it also saves money and prevents waste.
So next, we're going to wrap things up and give our audience a little encouragement.
That's right, Helen. Let's close with an inspiring recap and a call to action.
Frank, I'm honestly shocked today. I've just realized that for years I've been storing so many foods the wrong way. Tomatoes, onions, potatoes, bread, olive oil, honey, and bananas. All things I used to put straight into the fridge without a second thought.
You're not alone, Helen. Many people follow the keep it cold to keep it safe rule, without realizing that sometimes it can actually make food lose flavor, change texture, or even spoil faster.
What I've learned today is that proper storage doesn't have to be complicated. Just keep food in the right place at the right temperature and it'll stay fresh longer, and meals will taste so much better.
Exactly. The key isn't expensive gadgets or extra effort, it's knowledge and habits. When you understand the nature of each food, you'll know how to keep its flavor and nutrition intact.
I think many of our listeners are like me. After this episode, they'll open their fridge and rescue at least one item.
That's my challenge for everyone today. Pick at least one of the 7 foods we've talked about. Take it out of the fridge and store it properly this week. Then, notice how its taste and texture change.
I'm sure people will be surprised by the difference. And who knows? This might even save money, since we'll be throwing away less spoiled or flavorless food.
Absolutely, Helen. Beyond saving money, it's about enjoying the full, natural taste of your food. A small daily pleasure that can bring a lot of happiness.
Thank you, Frank. And thank you to everyone listening. Take on the Food Rescue Mission Challenge this week, and let us know your results in the comments.
We'll see you in the next episode of the Senior Health Podcast, where we'll keep exploring practical tips to help you live healthier, eat better, and enjoy life at every age.